For our meeting for April 20th, 2023. Everybody please rise for the pledge of allegiance. Pledge of allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Our agenda this evening, as it was posted on the town website and the town board, is as follows. Number one is the Blue Skies Towers amendment to a site plan and special use permit. Applicant seeks an amendment to a previously approved site plan and special use permit application concerning a wireless communication facility located off Creek Road. I have the tax map numbers, but we'll skip those at this time. There's a public hearing to commence at 7 p.m. Blue Sky Towers 3 LLC is the applicant. Number two, Carrier site plan and special use permit. Applicant seeks approval to convert an existing garage into a daycare center on property located at 215 Oakwood Avenue. Lynn Courier is the applicant. The applicant has, in this case, has asked to be placed on the agenda for our next meeting. She does not have information available at this time to present to the board. So she is going to be rescheduled for May 4th. Number three on our agenda is Otis Waiver subdivision. Applicant seeks to transfer approximately 0.33 acres on 10 Charles Road to an adjacent parcel. Tammy Otis and Richard Otis are the applicants. As I stated at the beginning of the agenda, there is a public hearing for Blue Sky Towers. Commence at 7 p.m. I read the procedure for the public hearing. The purpose of the public hearing is to hear concerns, comments, and views from the general public regarding a particular proposal or application. All public hearings are electronically recorded and a written record of the proceedings is generated. In most cases, this written record is included with the minutes of the planning board regular meeting, which is usually conducted immediately after the public hearing. The applicant will be required to respond to all concerns, comments made at the public hearing, and subsequently, the planning board will consider all concerns and comments when evaluating the application to ensure that the applicant, has addressed all the issues in question. The public hearing will be conducted as follows. The notice of public hearing will be read by the planning board attorney. Next, the applicant will give a brief presentation on the proposal and will provide any updates on the application. Upon completion of the applicant's remarks, the chairman of the planning board will recognize persons from the public, and these individuals will be allowed to speak and offer their concerns, comments, and views. Since the proceedings of the public hearing are electronically recorded, it is requested that all speakers step forward and use the microphone at the podium, and that all speakers give their name and address for the record. At this time, the notice of public hearing will be read by the planning board attorney, Andy Gilchrist.
And before I read the notice of public hearing, just for the board's review of the procedure on this, we'll all recall that this was the subject of a prior special use permit and site plan review, and it went through a fairly extensive alternatives analysis with visual assessment, ultimately identifying a preferred location for the tower. The tower application indicated it was for two tenants, Verizon and AT&T. And once the preferred alternative location was selected, and this was a joint review by the planning board and the zoning board, there were revised plans submitted by the applicant, which showed a proposed tower height of 85 feet with both Verizon and AT&T located on the tower. AT&T in particular at 66 feet. And at that point, a revised environmental assessment form was submitted identifying the action as an 85-foot tower. We identified both Blue Sky Towers and AT&T as applicants. And the boards continued their review, made their secret determination, and ultimately the tower was approved in March of 2021. Tower was completed in early 2022. Initially, an application was made likewise in early 2022 after the tower was completed for an extension to the tower, but that was withdrawn. Recently, in the end of February 2023, the application was submitted for the proposed extension for 20 feet. And that application was submitted under the Federal Spectrum Act, Section 6409. That allowed the planning board to review the application materials to determine whether this application constituted an eligible facility request under federal law. And the board did undertake that review, and some additional information was requested from the applicant. And during the course of the review of those materials, it was learned that one of the tenants to the tower, AT&T, had determined prior to the board's approval of the 85-foot tower, but confirmed shortly after to Blue Sky Towers, the current applicant, after the planning board's approval, that a 66-foot height location for its antenna would not meet their needs, and began working to determine a higher location on this particular tower site and identify the need to be at 95 feet. Ultimately, a plan was put together for that by AT&T. That is the current proposal in front of the board, which is to extend the tower height to accommodate AT&T at 95 feet, as opposed to the approved location of 66 feet. The application, as I indicated, has been submitted under the Federal Spectrum Act, Section 6409. In sum and substance, that law does provide that if the application constitutes an eligible facility request, federal law mandates that the local approving board must approve and cannot deny the application. And that's stated in the requirement under federal law, not under state law or local law, but it's a federal law requirement. That's the context in which the application has been submitted and is currently in front of the board. Under Brunswick's law, this would require an amendment to the special use permit site plan. The board has entertained the application accordingly and has gone through that procedure, and hence, under zoning in Brunswick, a public hearing is required, and that will be read and opened shortly. But under the Federal Spectrum Act, if this constitutes an eligible facility request, and that's been reviewed by the planning board engineer, and my office, we'll hear from the applicant's attorney momentarily when he presents the project. If this is an eligible facility request, federal law does require that the board approve and cannot, as a matter of law, deny the application. And so, having said that, we'll read the notice of public hearing. Notice of public hearing. Notice is hereby given that a public hearing will be held by the planning board of the town of Brunswick at 7 p.m. on Thursday, April 20th, 2023 at the Brunswick Town Hall, 336 Town Office Road, Brunswick, New York, 12180, to review an application pursuant to Section 6409 of the Federal Spectrum Act to modify a previously approved site plan and special use permit submitted by Blue Sky Towers 3 LLC concerning a wireless communication facility located off Creek Road. The applicant has submitted the application as an eligible facility request pursuant to federal law to install a 20-foot extension onto the existing wireless communication facility. Copies of the application and supporting documents are available at the Brunswick Town Hall and are available for public inspection during regular business hours. All interested persons will be heard at the public hearing. This was published in the Eastwood Press, placed on the town signboard, posted on the town website. And the applicant did complete the required mailing to owners of property located within 750 feet of the project site. And I do believe has filed the proof of mailing.
Okay, thank you. At this time, I'll have the applicant just come up and give a brief presentation, address your remarks to the audience, please.
To the audience.
Yes.
Good evening, members of the board and public. My name is Jared Lusk with the law firm Nixon Peabody, representing Blue Sky Towers. In this application, dated February 27th, 2023, as set forth in the application, Blue Sky is proposing to extend the existing tower located at 207 Creek Road, 20 feet, to make it a 105-foot tower for the purpose of installing 9 panel antennas, 15 remote radio units, cables, etc. Blue Sky is proposing to extend the existing branching from the monopine tower up to the top of the antennas to extend the tray to continue the tree monopine look of the tower. As a relatively simple project, as outlined in our application, as Mr. Gilchrist described, this qualifies as set forth in our application under tab C, qualifies as an eligible facilities request under federal law because it meets the following standards. For existing towers, the proposed modification, it must meet these criteria. The proposed modification does not increase the height of the existing tower by the greater of more than 10% of the tower, or not more than 20 feet above the highest existing antenna array on the tower. So it's either the greater of 10% or 20 feet. Since the existing tower is 85 feet tall, by operation of law, this qualifies because we are extending only 20 feet.
I'm sorry, that's the greater of or the lesser of?
It is the greater of 10% or 20 feet. So if you had a 250-foot tower, you could only go 20 feet,
For you,
or 25
if
feet.
you could let the applicant just finish his presentation and then we'll take questions on that, please.
Next question is, the modification only involves the installation of no more than the standard number of equipment cabinets or technology involved. It does not exceed 4 cabinets in the aggregate in the compound at the base of the tower. And we're just, we qualify with that as written in the site. 3, the modification does not entail any excavation or deployment outside the current site. So the site's defined as the compound area where the tower is located, and we're co-locating the equipment inside the existing compound. We're not expanding the existing compound. 3rd, the antennas that are installed on the tower do not extend out further than 20 feet from the center of the tower again. In the site plan, we demonstrate that we do need that as well. And then the 5th and final element is the modification does not defeat the concealment elements currently existing in connection with the system support structure. Hence, if we attempted to put a monopole on the top of the monopine without any of the branching, it would not qualify. But since we are extending the branching to continue the tree look, it qualifies for that category as well. So based on these standards that are set forth in the federal law, qualify as an eligible facilities request. And Mr. Gilchrist did a fine job of describing to the board what that means. Again, relatively simple project, 20-foot extension on top of the project with the extending tree branches, as well as the equipment in the existing cab house, again, to deliver service to the area.
Thank you. Okay, at this time, I will open the floor to the public. They come up and ask questions of the applicant. Make any comments, any opinions, so forth and so on. Please come up and use the microphone and state your name and address. Sir, you? Whichever, okay. Go ahead.
Good evening, members of the board. Beautiful night, isn't it?
What's that?
Beautiful night.
Yeah.
Clear night. Like we can see a few years ago, when we were here, peering over your right shoulder to us. We should amend that to include cell phone towers again. I stood at this podium several years ago. I know half of the board is of the Hillcrest community. And quite honestly, with the closest residents, Creek Road, I'm one of the individuals that it affects me the most. Quite honestly, I don't care about the cell service. I care about my view. And it's so nice because I too can't walk my dog tonight, play golf with the two of you at Troy. I have to come to another meeting and listen about accommodating a company on behalf of your client. It's so nice we're accommodating a non-taxpayer for their 20 feet within federal law. And I know none of you have a tower. I do believe in your backyard. I asked that several years ago. Not only is the request, it sounds like it's a fait accompli, Andy. My wife will speak after me, but it doesn't necessarily mean that we have to like it. And there has to be federal law brings forth the right for an applicant for you to have to approve a 20-foot increase. There has to be some rights under the law for us to take legal action against the board. And we're already pursuing pitting neighbor against neighbor. Legal action against the owner of the land, not the rolling Bucolic Hills in the town of Brunswick. But it's nice that we're accommodating AT&T to their 20 feet that I can see out my back door or by my pool. So in halls of justice and the basis of democracy to share my opinions with many of you I know, and those of you that I don't know on behalf of your client, I would appeal to reason. And if not, then we have to pursue as residents what legal means that we have to live according to the way that we thought that when I first bought the property in 2007, it looked much like that. It no longer looks like that. And I do not want it to look 20 feet higher. So my wife will speak next, she'll pass out some pictures. But we won't go quietly to the extent why should we? Not them, they are not my neighbors, they are not our neighbors. We live in this town, and I've even missed the opportunity with the applicant to read my taxes. And then the next question is, at what point does it go from 105 feet to a request for 140 feet? And at what point do I have a flashing light out my bedroom window? And if the previous applicant, Mr. Gilchrist, or if the applicant withdrew their application for an immediate increase and it was withdrawn and resubmitted, this is 2 years. How soon will we be back at this again? So if you all pass through Eagle Ridge and look out my back, I am by my pool with my family, and I pay about $16,000 of tax, property, and school. That seeking monetary damages to participate. I don't think the family is here. But the basis of their benefit in increasing their capacity would be a financial gain, much to my loss. That's what I ask you to respectfully consider.
Thank you.
Hello. I have pictures that I've taken of the packet of pictures. This is the view from our house. Various locations from our house, the driveway, our pool area. Thank you for allowing us to, I'm Lisa McDonald, 11 Eagle Ridge Drive, wife of Todd. Thank you for allowing us to voice our concerns, and hopefully we will be listened to with empathy and respect to the fact that we will live with your decision 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year for X amount of years that we remain in the residence. When the original South Tower study was done with photos and balloons and all that, when it was completed, it was said that if the tower was built at its current site, we would have a partial view. As demonstrated by the photos I provided, it's anything but a partial view. We are in full view of everything except the equipment at the base of the tower. I would ask also that if any members of the planning board have actually driven up Eagle Ridge Drive and looked at my backyard in reality, because the pictures are one thing, but what it looks like in reality is something totally different. While there's been an attempt to make it look like a tree, you can see the metal pole when the sunlight hits it from a certain direction. You can see visible panels. This is outside our bedroom window. It's outside our pool area, direct view. If you haven't done so, I would encourage you to drive up there before making a decision, although it sounds like your hands are pretty much tied and this is just kind of a formality. I also have concerns like my husband as to where the request for these additional height increases end. The corporate profits of Verizon and other carriers to add more height in order to lease more arrays for profit should not be given preference over taxpaying residents. We chose to live where we do because of the views and lack of urbanization. Should you choose to approve this height request, we are prepared to seek compensation, either monetary or otherwise, to improve the view from our property. Please, 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 if it is all within your power, deny this request. Thank you. I'm Barbara Russo, 52 Colton Avenue, in Brunswick. Quite frankly, this feels like a classic bait split. The applicant came in with a proposal for a tower at one height, actually multiple heights, which went through a lengthy process with a lot of public comment, a lot of meetings. As my favorite said, neighbors from Dr. Gill said, we came here on countless nights a few years ago, listening to the proposal, sending in our comments, going through the whole rigmarole. Multiple heights, multiple locations were proposed. They submitted expert reports saying, this is the height we needed, this is the location we needed for the capacity that we want, for both Verizon and AT&T. The board took a hard look and determined that, okay, this location of this height is acceptable for our town. Do we prove that height, that location? It was built. Now they come to us at a later date, after all the approval process, after all the reviews, after all the expert reports saying, this is what we need. Well, now they come to us and say, no, that wasn't what we need. We need something
Well, if this is just as maybe they knew during the early process that the community wanted something higher than what was approved. Why did we bring it up before? I think that only question whether they fit under their federal regulations. And I would urge you to consider to not rubber stamp the proposal just because they say they follow these federal regulations, when apparently they need some information during the review process.
So, do you want to come up? All right, Merrick London, 52 Colheimer Ave. I'm curious, how high does the tower have to be before you have to put a light on it?
200 feet.
200 feet. So that means, how many more times can they do this before we get to the point that there's a light? Every 20 feet? 5, 6 times? Right, under the law, is that my understanding? His client knew the last time around. They didn't ask to put a hold on anything, hold in abeyance until they worked it out, amend their application, did they? Did they? I'm
I'm
asking,
not sure if I'm supposed to be responding to the chairman.
I'm directing this directly to you, you're the attorney, if you'd like, you can respond, if not,
Why don't I respond when he gets done talking, because I can respond to your question.
you're representing Blue Sky, Nixon Peabody? So, that brings me to another point. Does everyone here know who Nixon Peabody is? Are you all aware of who that firm is? Anyone? You are. It amazes me that Blue Sky sent probably one of the more powerful firms in the world, or like renowned around the world. I believe a president had something to do with the firm. Why are they sending Nixon Peabody here for this? They're not using a local firm. I don't understand why they need such a high-powered firm for something like this, if it's something that should just be rubber stamped. Apparently, there really doesn't need to be rubber stamped. And the fact that they could come in again and again and do this, when they knew right from the get-go, they had all their experts, that should be concerning. How many more times are they gonna be allowed to do this? Just some questions to ponder. Thank you. Anyone else wish to come up and make any comments or have any questions? Would the applicant like to respond to some of these at this time?
Mr. Chair and members of the board, I'd like to think that we're a powerful law firm. I have an office in Rochester, New York, represent Verizon and tower companies all over upstate New York. I do small projects, big projects, this project. So again, well, they didn't hire Nixon Peabody because this is a special case. They hired Nixon Peabody because we represented them all throughout the state. President Nixon, or I assume the comment about President Nixon was never associated with that firm, just to be clear, it was T. Carroll Nixon in Rochester, New York, was the gentleman who founded the firm back in the late 1800s. There seems to be a misunderstanding, or maybe Mr. Gilchrist knew this and he would say this to you, but the 20-foot extension rule that I just described to you, a tower owner gets to do that once. So any additional extension to this tower would not be subject to the eligible facility request rules that we've described here. It would be coming in before you. This board may decide that they want to extend this tower further, or they may not. But whoever may seek to extend that tower would not get the benefit of the eligible facilities request. That's in the statute itself. So you get one bite at that apple for the eligible facility request. This was not known, this issue about whether AT&T would work at 66. There was discussion again, as we discussed at the last meeting. There was general concern and general question about where the tower would finally go. And there was a hope that AT&T would end up at 66 feet. But again, there was a long time getting to the site. And by the time that the site was finally chosen for Verizon was the driving factor behind the tower at the height that they were locating. Blue Sky still had a hope that AT&T would join the tower at that point. But there was no commitment to be there, et cetera. So again, we've laid that out in previous correspondence to you, and I provided that to you after the last meeting. As to the lighting, you understand that that's at 200 feet or if you're in a flight path. Again, we're extending from 85 to 105 feet as proposed, and not near lighting.
Based on the applicant's comments, is there any additional comments that anyone else would like to make?
Can we turn AT&T down? Do we have any control over AT&T putting stuff on this tower? Is that a way to avoid this from being extended? Because it was originally granted to just Verizon, correct?
No, there's two carriers, AT&T and Verizon. Am I correct on that? The original application is,
Russ, that's correct. The approval did have two tenants,
right.
AT&T and Verizon.
Andy, would you like to comment on that, or the applicant, on whether there's any individual carrier that can be denied?
I'll let the applicant's attorney provide his legal opinion on that.
It's a simple no, that the law does not distinguish between carriers. It's whether or not there's an eligible facilities request, and that's the equipment that's being proposed. There's no distinction between the carriers. Verizon could have three sets of antennas on this tower if the code allowed it. Doesn't matter which carrier is putting the antenna array where. It's about the height of the tower and the size of the equipment. So again, the carrier, who the carrier is irrelevant.
But it's only AT&T that has the issue of it being at 66 feet, not Verizon, correct?
Again, I can't speak for Verizon, and I can't speak for AT&T. Again, the fact, what AT&T's rationale for wanting a 20-foot extension here is not contemplated in the law. As documented in the application, the board is prohibited from asking why. All we are required to show under the law is that we meet those dimensional requirements, and the board's ability to inquire further is blocked by federal law.
So is AT&T, is
Would you
that,
please come up?
We can't hear you. Yeah, I'm not getting you on the mic at all.
if the AT&T antenna is at 66 feet, then why can't it be placed 50, 80, whatever feet? Where the Verizon one is, why does it need to go another 20 from the 85 feet? And if you do the math from 66 feet where the AT&T one is, then that puts you over 10% or 20 feet.
No, maybe I can clarify that. The AT&T is currently not on the tower. Verizon's on the tower. They're at a higher height of the tower. They're approximately 75 or 80 feet. They're at the upper elevation on the existing tower. AT&T was to be at 66 feet. They're proposing to go to 95 feet on a 105-foot tower. That's what the current application is. For the Verizon antenna, is not proposed to be relocated. That's currently on the tower.
Right, but I thought the original proposal for the AT&T was at 66
That's correct.
So why can't they just go in the same height with Verizon? Why do they need to go even higher?
I'll let the applicant address that, but I don't believe there's space, because the Verizon antenna are at that. There's not enough room between the top height of the Verizon antenna and the balance of the existing tower height to place the AT&T antenna, but I'll let the applicant's attorney confirm that, that's correct.
If you were to compare a tower like a building, Verizon is occupying the 8th floor of the building, and AT&T is proposing to occupy the 9th floor, add 2 floors and occupy the 9th floor. You can't have 2 sets of antennas on the same floor, right? They're screwed on and they're a circumference around the tower like this. You can't have 2 of them at the same height.
Does that answer the question?
I think so. One other question under the federal regulations, is it the
I'm not picking up on the mic at all.
Under the federal regulation, is it the 10% or 20 feet from the tower height or from the original proposal?
And again, I'll let Mr. Lusk confirm if this is correct, but it's 20 feet from the top height from the existing highest antenna panel.
That standard has already been provided to the board in Exhibit C of the application. It's laid out that, and confirming again in writing that I provided, that it is 20 feet from the top of the existing, each tower can be extended up to 20 feet. The greater of 10% of the original tower height or 20 feet. So if you had a 250-foot tower, for example, you could put a 25-foot extension. But if you have under 200, under a tower that's under 200, you can always add 20 feet.
Anyone else have any questions at this point? Is the board going to need to extend the public hearing at this point? And I'll make a motion that the public hearing be closed.
Second.
Any further discussion on that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? At this point, we're going to start our regular meeting. I encourage those people that spoke at the public hearing, that our first item on the agenda is the Blue Sky Towers, in which the board will discuss the application. However, we do have a little bit of business to take care of before we get into the meeting, and that is the review and acceptance of previous meetings. The first meeting's minutes for a special meeting held on March 30th, 2023. Has everybody had an opportunity to review those? Is there any additions, corrections that have to be made? Okay, then I'll make a motion to accept those minutes as they were submitted. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, now the second set of minutes is for the planning board meeting held on April 6th, 2023. Once again, is there any corrections, additions, changes that have to be made to those minutes? Okay, hearing none, I will make a motion to accept the minutes as they are submitted. Do I have a second? Any further discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Now, to start our meeting, first on our agenda is the Blue Skies amendment of the site plan and special use permit. We had the public hearing, heard comments from the public. the applicant come back up and entertain some questions from the board. Does anybody have any questions on the comments that were made at the public hearing? I will make one comment, and basically, we went through a very extensive process initially to do this. We did balloon studies, did, public hearings. We had all kinds of alternative sites for the tower, went through a very extensive process. I thought we did our due diligence on this. I was not happy when this amendment was proposed. And to answer your question, I have been up there several times. I know some of the members of the board have during the process, and just recently, I've been up there to take a look, see what the tower looked like as it at 85 feet. I will say, I was surprised it looked as good as it did, but
Tolerable.
it's tolerable. But I thought the process, worked as far as getting the best tower configuration that we could under the circumstances. So, not particularly, I'm not sure whether adding 20 feet to this and putting additional branches on is going to make this look any prettier or any proportionally nice, but it seems to me like it's the only viable alternative at this point. So you don't have any other suggestions as far as making this tower look any different?
No.
Okay, with that being said, does anybody have any questions?
The only item that's bring up is, we had a discussion, I'm pretty sure it was about this tower, about the antennas being internal to the branches rather than external to the branches. And I think we looked at some photos of some towers, I think, over in the, it was over in Warren, or Holmes, or we looked at some other towers.
Clifton Park was one, man.
Where some of the arrays were outside of the branches, on the exterior of the branches, so to speak. I just want to make sure that, this extension is treated similar to what they have there. They're not placed on the outside of the branches.
That's the design, is set forth in the plans, that the rim and the branching extends out.
The other thing I wanted to add too is Andy and I think Wayne spent, at least 1 month researching this for us to see if we had any recourse or any way for us to review this and have, input or control. And I believe we determined that we did not have that. I just wanted to share that with the audience that, we did, I think, do our due diligence as best we could in the situation that I personally am not happy with. I think we were, I won't say bamboozled, but I think we were given all the facts up front. Personally, that's just my own personal opinion. But at the point in time, we're obligated to proceed. Fortunately.
My only comment would be that in light of the public comments and what I saw in the field with regard to the antenna that are existing on the tower being somewhat visible through the branching because of their color being white as opposed to green, but the new antenna be colored and the top of the pole be finished such that it's not glaring.
And the simulations were provided to you in the application. That is our best estimate about how it will look. So if you,
Well,
sorry,
I think in the last application, the simulations also appeared, but the antenna was not.
This is,
A different
again,
color.
taken with tower, this is taken with the existing tower, right? So as the basis of the tower, and you can extension put on it. So again, again, picture shows you what the tower looks like. And again, it's the same branch company, same et cetera. So it's intended to look like it does, is shown in the simulations.
And a request was not, just to be clear, wasn't specific to the branches, but the antenna panel themselves. The
If
panel.
if there's a particular color that you wanted painted, I think, again, the colors that are contemplated in the simulations are what they are. But if there's a particular color that you want them painted, I'm sure the client would be happy to consider that if it's possible, right? Technically possible. So,
Thank you. And are we going to be, having the applicant respond in writing to comments, public hearing?
Yes.
I'm not sure what comments you would like me to respond. I mean, I know there's opposition to the project, so if you could please help me on what comments require.
Well, generally, if the way the board's practice and procedure has been, there were comments raised, they'll be noted in minutes. And generally, the applicant will review those comments and provide a written response, however that written response is to be submitted. And that completes the record. Whether you deem them to be legally relevant or not, understand that. I do, understand that position. But the general practice and procedure of the board is those comments that were received tonight will be listed out in minutes, and they're reviewed, and whatever written responses the applicant made completes the record in front of the board.
And when would those minutes be available?
Well, in this case, they'll be available as soon as possible, but certainly by the early part of next week.
So.
We'll say certainly within like the middle of next week, but we'll use every effort to get them out by the early part of next week.
Okay. We're in a bit of a quandary here given the time. Under the law, the town has 60 days to make their decision. If the decision isn't issued within that 60 days, under the statute, it's deemed approved. So based on my math, on the 60th day when this application arrived on February 28th, the 60th day is April 29th.
Well, we did take out the 4 days when we requested additional information and the information was provided, right?
Not really, because you have a set period of time to request that information.
Okay,
And that didn't happen within that time period. That being said,
Mhm.
I am willing on behalf of the client to extend the application, the time until the May 4th meeting. But I can respond to comments and minutes that I don't get. So as long as the board is permitting to get me the minutes that I'm going to respond to within short order, right? I would say today is Thursday. Is it possible by close of business next Tuesday?
we use every effort to do that, correct?
Right, because obviously if it gets here Wednesday and Thursday and I need to respond, I need to get you the information in time. And right into the time for the following week's meeting.
Understood.
And so I'm here to try to be responsive with regard to that. But again,
We can certainly say we'll use every effort to get these done into you. They will be in draft form as they go to the board members to approve, but that's the standard practice.
Right.
To you by close of business Tuesday.
that seems reasonable. If there's-
Every effort to do that.
All right, and then I'll make every effort to try. When would you like our written responses in time so that you have the time necessary to read that? I don't have the comments. I heard the comments.
Yeah.
Right.
That's
So
up to the board's discretion, how.
so I just want to make sure we all understand so that there's not.
I mean, we could review them at the meeting on the 4th. Or do you want to get a draft proposal together before? No?
No need in this case.
Well, I-
My, on the understanding that 29th is the end date, right? Is the 60 days.
It's the 60th day, and if Blue Sky, again, wasn't, we're here, they're a neighbor, right? They are a neighbor, they do pay taxes, they're here. We are, I'm willing, they're willing to extend their time, not be a jerk, give you the answers that you need, but I can assure you that comes May 4th, we're not, they're not waiting anymore. I mean, they're entitled to this under the law, and they followed the process. They've done what they were asked to do. And so again, they're willing to do this to provide the written response for the record. But again, I think they want some, assurance that May 4th it is what it is.
I think it's inevitable. I think what is it? I mean, I don't know why we're really discussing.
Right,
To
well,
be honest with you, I mean, all we asked for is a written response. He's gonna get you the minutes by Tuesday, at the end of Tuesday. Turn it around, get it to us back within a week. We'll get it distributed. What discussion is there gonna be at our meeting?
I'm not sure, right? But again,
I mean, the comments, what comment, what are we gonna discuss? I mean, accuracy? I mean, you know what I'm saying?
well, again, you're the ones that want written comments, right?
Well, that's our procedure. That's what we have to do.
And I
This-
appreciate.
Yeah, you're right. This is certainly following the board's practice and procedure. The determination's a separate issue. This is simply following the board's standard practice and procedure, which in the ordinary course does require a response to public comments received during the public.
I mean, I'm not trying to give you a hard time about this, and I'm sure you're not trying to give us a hard time. But,
I don't know whether you're being flipped when you say that, when you're earlier, I'm not trying to give you a hard, look, we.
no, I can tell you I understand.
Yeah,
Well, let-
the chairman generally can never act in a flippant manner during the public hearings. No, he's being very direct with you.
I understand, I just saw it, I appreciate the situation everyone's in here. And I also, we have been, for more than 60 days, we have been in conversations with the town about this, about the project, with everyone, let people know that it was coming, we discussed it. This is not, we've been, again, cooperative in this process. And I don't need anybody to say attaboy, I just want you to know that nowhere along the line have we hammered this over the head other than laying the groundwork for what the right, we've been talking, we've been involved with this longer than the 60 days. And I think Mr. Gilchrist can attest to that, I hope.
Well, certainly I will. But one thing that we've learned, and your client is Blue Sky Towers,
It
and I
is.
appreciate the comments and the discussion. The board has learned a lot concerning your proposed tenant, AT&D, during the course of the current application review that it did not know before. So I do appreciate, and I will confirm, we have been in discussions for a while, and I appreciate that approach. But during the course of the written application review, the board did learn certain things about AT&T that it had not known previously. And we're trying to work through those.
I understand.
Yeah.
And, Blue Sky has no, and again, with respect, it's not Blue Sky's obligation to make sure that the town complies with the 60-day limit. It's your job to fit your process into that 60 days. Blue Sky is saying, let's give them more time, meaning you, the board, to follow your process. But it's not our job to make sure that happens, right? We're doing that, and they're doing that because they want to give you that time and that courtesy.
And for the record, we appreciate it. You understand. Thank you.
Thank you.
I had one, if you could point the top of that tree so it looks more like instead of knobbing the top off the way the pictures look. Would be,
I think they've got,
you don't have to comment on it. If you look at the pictures, it looks like National Grid came through and pruned it. So,
I think they're dealing with the height issue, but again, we'll work through that. I'll mention that to them. So you want to see, and again, for not trying to make religious comments, you'd like to see more of a Christmas tree with your
yes,
star on it, is that?
without the star, without the red
Yes,
light.
understood.
Lightning rod's got to be on the top.
Yeah, the lightning rod certainly is on top. So you'll see that.
And we will see you on the 4th, and hopefully conclude this.
You're very unlikely to see me on the 4th. The gentleman, Jeff Twitty, right there, that you see, he's going to be the guy probably who's going to be here.
All right,
Thank you very much.
thank you. Okay, moving along on our agenda, number 2 was the carrier site plan special use permit. I previously stated that the applicant has requested to be put on the agenda for the 4th of May. The third on our agenda is Otis waiver subdivision. Is that you, Brian?
Yes.
Okay.
Public hearing no longer. One towards the board. So this project is located up on the end of Char Lane.
That's okay.
You see,
I'm okay. It's really visible.
This project is located up on the end of Char Lane. My clients, Tammy Otis and Richard Otis, own this house right here, which is the old subdivision from Camel Hills subdivision, 1966. They own lots 5 and 6, and then also purchased this 12-acre piece behind them. And so what we're proposing to do is do a boundary line adjustment because lot 6 went right to the end of Char Lane as it exists today. And there was a easement in the deed for the ability to cross and go up into this property. But what we're trying to do is give this back property, this 12 acres, ultimately it'll be 12.47 acres. We're trying to give them some legal frontage on Char Lane. In full disclosure to the board, their intentions are to sell this house and to build a new house, and perhaps their daughter and son-in-law also build a house back on this property. So by moving this property line over, we give access off of Char Lane for potentially 2 lots.
So it looks like Texas, doesn't it?
And it does, it's a real weird shaped piece of property.
Anybody have any questions?
Where's the septic at lot 6?
Right in the front, right here. Right in front of the house, there's a raised system. Yeah, and the well's out behind the driveway there. You see it on there now?
I only ask because there's so much septic field here in the back. Why is it?
Gotcha. Yeah, I had just got done surveying this property over here for Gene Hinkle, who's in the process of building a house up here. And these folks saw me up there and said, hey, how about doing some work for me? So, I ended up going from here to here, working on this piece next door.
All right. This was brought before us.
I do have one question before you continue. The frontage you're creating on the public road is going to be adequate potentially for 2 trailers?
Yeah, there's gonna be 100 feet.
That's what I looked at, 100 foot, yeah.
Good.
Now, do they plan on doing that subdivision sooner than later? I mean, if you do a subdivision now, it's gonna be a minor.
Minor, yeah.
No big deal.
Okay. All right.
It is what it is. If they
It
want
is
to
what
do
it
the
is.
subdivision now, if they end up selling the house and
Yeah.
getting the other two homes, then, yeah,
Yeah.
it'll be a part of minor.
Well, that lot's its own lot, right? So they're only gonna do a waiver. They're gonna make one lot for one house and the rest of the lot's gonna be the other house. So these
don't know.
are separate deeds, right?
Yeah,
So-
absolutely.
so we're just
This-
doing a
this
lot line
separate
adjustment.
deed for this. We're just taking a piece off of this and putting it on.
We're not creating any lots,
No,
and if they they would just do a waiver to create a lot for the daughter if they wanted to at some time.
right. I'm not sure if they're gonna build this year or next year or in 5 years. I don't know.
It wouldn't be a minor unless they had 3 lots.
Well, yeah, it would only be 2 lots.
There'd only be 2 lots. It'd be a waiver, right?
That can get reviewed at the time. It is potentially currently the same owner. In the future, it could be separate owners. You have to determine
Right.
when it comes in and
We're right now, we're just doing a lot line adjustment between 2 separate deeds.
Correct.
that's right, same owner.
Same owner.
Well,
Right.
wouldn't matter, would it?
Well, if that property is deeded out, I'm just, we'd have to take a look. I can remember you had this issue up in Bald Mountain, clearly, but that had gone through a number of waivers, and at some point, the board said, how many times are you gonna divide this up? Will require a minor. We should review that to determine what would be required here, just to be consistent.
And like I say, I don't think it's a big deal for me to come in here and do a minor. It's a little bit more paperwork, a little bit more money,
That's correct. Same review.
same review.
Okay.
Same board, same bunch of good people, so.
Just too good to. All right, does anybody have any other questions on this?
Another, somewhat related matter, how long is Hinkle's Drive?
How long is it? It's probably in the neighborhood of about,
This
I would
is
say at least
50
about
scale,
700
so
feet.
probably 600, 700 feet.
Does he have, is he making provisions to turn equipment around up there and everything?
I don't know.
He will.
Oh, I thought you were doing work there.
I am. It's under construction, Don, so he's not done. He's got his foundation. I think he started framing. Has he started framing, Chuck? So.
Yep.
That would be a code enforcement issue,
okay.
not a land surveying issue.
On the
Wayne, do you have any questions on this?
What are the setback requirements here? What's the
A-
side setback?
A
25?
40.
So it's 25, side setback? That's the only question I have. Thank you very much.
I think I won. No, right?
Yeah, you got 36.
Anything, any questions out at that end? Other end? Okay. Then I will entertain a motion, for, seeker,
I'll make a negative
there's a negative declaration of the seeker. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Is there any further discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Now the approval of the waiver. There is no,
I don't see any circular lot line. So
just a simple one. Yeah. Okay, who wants to make a motion for approval of the,
I'll make that.
do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? You're all set, Brian. You want
All right.
these?
Thank you very much, everyone.
Brian, you want these?
Chuck has those, if I got one on one side of me.
Okay. Okay, that concludes our regular agenda. Now we can go on to new business.
Take care, everyone.
Okay, thanks, Brian.
Brian,
The only one here we go. Okay. I think everybody got the application for waiver of subdivision for Sipperly?
Gallipo and Sibley.
There were some questions on this? Now, this is a map that our friend Mark Danskin did. And if you notice, it was pointed out to me that this land is actually a very large parcel with street on both sides. There was a question from the building department whether there was additional information that was needed on this. But apparently he did up in the corner, he does show the entire 40 acres. Are you reading all this, right?
The 400.
Actually, let me see.
No, subdivide. Where's subdivision?
So they want to divide the 7.29 acres?
That's correct.
Oh, you're the applicant.
I'm Brian.
Okay. Well, why don't you come up and tell us exactly what you want to do? I mean,
Sure. I have a signed letter from the owner of the property. I was told to bring it with me. He's not able to come sign tonight.
okay,
So,
99?
yeah,
Wow,
yeah.
he's amazing for no.
Yeah, he's doing great. So he had gifted us 3.60 acres of land. And the one side is the 7.29 acres. That's the side that we're subdividing. The only thing that's on that side of the property is an old garage. It used to be the David Hill Kennel.
Yeah.
So that's the only existing building on that property, but our piece of the property is 75 feet or 100 feet off of the corner of the building. So our piece isn't close to that building. So we have 3.60 acres from the corner lot away from the building. We aren't touching anything on the opposite side of the road.
okay.
Yeah, the first time this was proposed to me, the other side of the road was in play. And we had an issue with having a accessory structure without a primary. So, and then I guess the division has come such that now you're having all of the buildings stay the same, the land hook is still the same across the road, so.
Yeah, the other side of the road is it's in the deed to his son, so that's not even touching 40 acres that's existing.
And that land is to the 3.69 that remains. With the
Yeah.
kennel.
That will go to his son as well.
Now, this 3.60 acres, you obviously are planning on building a house on it?
Yeah, not for like another 5-6 years. It's expensive.
Okay. Do we need any type of, I'm stressing this to Wayne, any type of possible proposed driveway with site?
There is an existing culvert pipe there that the county put in
Okay.
on the property.
I mean, at this point, do we need
What is
that?
that, what's there now? Is that farm field?
That's woods. It's all woods.
It's all woods?
Yeah, it's all
Is this where it runs down the hill?
correct.
This is like the top of the hill?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then it starts
Yeah, then
going
you start to
down?
go down.
The entire 7 acres is
It's all
what,
woods, yeah.
other than the garage and the pond.
It all slopes down.
But it
Yeah,
slopes down
slightly.
from, yes.
we'll say east to west.
Yeah. I want to say the
North to south.
pipe is probably.
West to east.
I think it's like right
Right in here.
here. Yeah, that's where the existing culvert pipe is.
I mean, is there anything, Wayne, that we need on this?
For a waiver?
Yeah. I think it's okay for a waiver.
You don't need site distances.
What's that?
Site distances?
My recollection is there's plenty of site distance there, it just goes down the hill, right?
What about the other way?
The other way isn't bad. It's more where his existing house is. There's not a good line of sight. But from that piece of the property, you can see clearly in both directions.
I'm familiar,
If
but not.
Mark can go out and kind of roughly locate where that spot for a driveway would be with a site distance calculation.
Okay.
Mark knows how to do that.
Yeah.
It would probably be benefit you and the board's decision whether or not this is a viable lot, you know.
Okay.
We don't want to approve something that, you know, later on is going to be a problem.
I don't see it, I don't see any problem with the size of the frontage. But we usually require that at least where a proposed driveway. Now, where did you say that culvert was? I didn't,
It's closer to the lot line. It's probably like right here.
okay.
What you said.
And I would assume that you would probably, good chance you would maintain that as your driveway area.
Correct, yeah.
If he could put that on there,
Okay.
just give us some sight distance in either direction.
Okay.
Would you say that that would be acceptable where that location is? I mean, it's gotta be close to 300
I
feet.
think the top of the hill is right around where the house is, right?
It is, yes.
Yeah. So
What's the speed limit there?
30.
30?
nobody does 30.
Well, I guess I'm just worried about somebody coming across the top of that hill and
Right.
found somebody pulling out of your
Oh, I
driveway.
get that.
I think it's fair to ask for that information. If you could just kind of locate where that culvert pipe is, and then from that point, in each direction, what the site distance is.
Okay.
And it has to be computed such that somebody's pulling it out.
So, I'm sorry, I'm the father of the Super League that's involved, but anyway, my only question is that, so if they go to stipulating that where that culvert pipe is going to be the driveway, are they, and then it gets approved that way, is it gonna be a terrible process if they decide it's safer to actually move it farther west?
No.
Would they have to come back and go through the whole process
No.
again?
You'd have to get a driveway permit, and that would. be
From that point
covered.
on, you go to the highway department to get a permit.
Okay,
And they
but
would,
if it's a culvert now and it gets approved, if the pipe is there, then do they need a permit for a driveway, or is that considered
you
an
still need a
existing?
permit for a driveway,
Okay,
because you're putting a residence there.
right, okay.
Do we do this as a non-realty or?
You gotta get it from.
Yeah.
This is what it was
We're
at
also
the
about
time.
30 house.
Yep. We don't have to worry about septic. We don't have to worry about septic
Just
in the county.
just to show you the process here, you're before us on the new business. We usually do not do any type of action at this time. We review it. And in this case, you know, we'll need a few things added to this. If you could add these, get the mark to add those things to this drawing by our next meeting, we can put you on the agenda for our next meeting.
Okay, great. And do you need that before the meeting?
Yes, perfectly.
Okay, is there a certain time you want that? Just so I know.
If you could get it to us at the beginning,
Of that,
of that week, yeah,
okay,
that would be fine.
okay, great. Thank you.
We distribute to the members on Friday of the week previous to the meeting.
Okay.
Before you go though, is there anything that needs to be added besides that?
What's a waiver? No other requirements.
Well, Mark does a lot of work that we review. You know
That's what he was saying.
his style. So,
Maps are a work of art.
yes, he should, there shouldn't be any problem with you telling us you want the driveway.
Okay, great.
He'll know exactly.
Okay, perfect.
So we will put you on our agenda for our next meeting, which is on the 4th of May. And hopefully we can proceed ahead.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you. Is that it for new business, Chuck?
Seeing you.
It's a darn good question. I believe so.
Okay. Is there any old business? Okay, hearing none, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Before we do that, two things. Did we officially make a motion to complete the public hearing? We did, didn't we?
To close the public hearing? Yes.
Just to review the agenda before we adjourn. We obviously are going to have Blue Sky Towers back, and that should be the final meeting for them. We will also have Courier. That's the daycare center on Oakwood Avenue for the site plan and special use permit.
Can I comment on that just for a second?
Absolutely.
Yeah, Fred Ring did call me to ask me questions about what we want to see for a site plan for that. I did tell him I'd like to see the entire parcel, which is 4+ acres. I wanted him to show where the wetlands are and the wetland buffer areas and enough information. Even though they're not going to disturb anything per se, they are putting a fence in the backyard. I think it was important that a lot of those features be shown on this site plan. So he agreed, and
And that includes the septic system also? Or they-
yeah, he's been in contact with the county, and they have no records of where that septic system is. So he's working through trying to locate that the best he can.
When I spoke with Lynn today, or earlier in the day, she stated that they had cameraed it, and but they don't have the information on paper yet.
Yeah, so I don't know exactly how they're gonna do it to find out what size that is. And see what he comes up with.
Okay.
Oh, she's the daycare center.
With that, we do have the public hearing for 168 Smith Hill at 7 o'clock.
So
The ground mount solar.
That's Gardner? Okay. So that'll be first, followed by Blue Skies, Carrier, and Sipper. Okay, now that we have a motion on the floor and a second to adjourn, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Yeah, that's-
Getting old, those little kids couldn't.